There's something strange about staying in someone else's home. You can feel the shape of their life, even when they're gone. You think you're a guest, but sometimes the house disagrees. Sometimes it wants to keep you. Tonight, we're opening the doorstone, the listings that never should have gone live. Welcome to Tales Atelier, where the homes are beautiful, the prices are fair, and the ghosts come free of charge.
I wasn't even supposed to be scrolling Airbnb that late. It was after midnight, that restless hour, when every place looks affordable until you notice the cleaning fees. I needed somewhere quiet to work, somewhere with heat that actually worked. Then I saw it. Cozy home away from home, 5 stars. Whole house, cheap, instant book. The host messaged before I could even close the tab.
Safe travels. Self-check-in is easy, the whole house is yours for the week.
I should have known right there. Nobody that cheerful at midnight is normal. The rideshare dropped me at dusk. The house sat on a narrow street, beige siding, green shutters faded like old money. Porch light already on. A lockbox waited by the door, 4-digit code blinking in my inbox. Inside smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and burnt vanilla, the ghost of a candle someone snuffed out too late. The entryway was immaculate, shoes lined up neatly on a mat, even though the listing said unoccupied. I did the usual walkthrough, half ritual, half paranoia. Kitchen, spotless. Fridge, 6 identical bottles of water, nothing else. Living room, couch cushions, stiff, pillows, square-like props. A welcome binder sat dead center on the coffee table, flowers doodled in pink marker. Wi-Fi password, Sunny Stay 225. Upstairs, 3 doors waited. The first, a guest room, sterile, but fine. The second, a bathroom that smelled like bleach and humming light. The third didn't open. The knob turned halfway before catching, metal on metal. I checked the binder again. Between no parties and run the dishwasher, 1 line stood out. One upstairs door is locked, owner storage. That made sense. Everyone keeps a closet for junk. Still, if the house was mine for the week, why choose the room right beside the one I'd sleep in? Downstairs, I flipped through TV channels that all sounded too loud. The floor creaked the way old houses do. Then, just once, I heard it. A faint drag across wood upstairs. Fabric maybe. A sleeve. A breath. I told myself it was the vent. At 10 p.m., the host texted again.
All good? Anything you need?
I typed back, all good, thanks. With a thumbs up I didn't mean. Sleep came thin and broken. Around 3 a.m., thirst woke me. I stayed still, hoping the feeling would fade, until I heard a faint tap in the hall. Not a knock, a brush. Barefoot, I crept out. The bathroom nightlight threw a soft glow down the corridor. The locked door loomed darker than the rest. I pressed my palm to the knob, cold, solid. I crouched, peering through the thin line at the bottom. No light, no shadow, just black. I waited for another sound that never came. Eventually I crawled back to bed, whispering that it was nothing. But when I opened my eyes at 8, something had changed. A pair of men's shoes now sat neatly outside the locked door. Black leather, scuffed toes, perfectly aligned. And absolutely not mine. The shoes didn't belong there. Black leather, scuffed at the toes, dust settled into the seams. They weren't staged like the rest of the house, they were real, lived in. They sat perfectly centered against the locked door, laces tucked, toes aligned with unnerving precision. I crouched, touched one, cold, not recently worn, but not old either. Downstairs, I reopened the binder, pretending that pages could explain anything. Same rules, same cheerful doodles, same fake friendliness. The whole house is yours. One upstairs door is locked, owner storage. Nothing about guests, nothing about shoes, nothing about that door. At 10 sharp, my phone buzzed.
Good morning. Hope you're settling in.
I stared too long before typing. Did you leave a pair of shoes outside the upstairs door? 3 dots appeared, vanished, appeared again, then.
No shoes here, must have been left by a past guest. Feel free to move them aside.
No shoes here. Not no shoes there. The phrasing sat wrong. Upstairs, the shoes still stood in formation. I nudged them gently with my foot, just to prove to myself they weren't glued down. They slid easily. When I returned from a grocery run that afternoon, they were flush against the door again. Same spot, same angle. I hadn't heard footsteps. The house was silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator, a sound I began to depend on. That night, I told myself not to look. I failed. At midnight, I opened my door. The hallway stretched quiet and pale under the bathroom's nightlight. The shoes gleamed faintly, leather catching the glow. Then came the sound again, a soft scrape from inside the locked room. Slow, long, like something dragging across the floorboards. I froze halfway down the hall. The scrape stopped, then a dull thud. "Hello?" I whispered. Nothing. My throat tightened. I pictured a pipe, maybe a fallen broom, anything human. I listened longer than was reasonable, until silence turned heavy. And then, from the corner of my eye, movement. Another shape on the floor. I turned fully, breath locked in my chest. A second pair of shoes stood beside the first. Red heels. They gleamed under the faint light, polished and new, angled slightly inward toward the black leather pair, as if leaning closer. My pulse thundered. I backed into my room, shut the door, and locked it, even though it barely had a latch. For the next hour, I sat awake on the edge of the bed, every creak of wood sounding like a footstep. Every shift of air felt like someone walking past. I waited for dawn. When light finally filtered through the curtains, I forced myself into the hall. Both pairs were still there, black leather, red heels, standing side by side, perfect. Toes kissing the base of the locked door. I stared at them until my eyes blurred. They weren't going anywhere. But something told me they weren't finished arriving. By the third morning, there were 3. The black leather shoes, the red heels, and now, a pair of child sneakers, blue canvas, tiny, frayed at the laces. They stood in a perfect line outside the locked door, smallest to largest, like a family portrait arranged by height. I crouched. The sneakers' rubber was cracked, the toes scuffed. Real, used, not props. Someone had lived in these. I didn't message the host. What would I even type? "Hi, your ghosts are organizing footwear again." Instead, I took photos, sent them to a friend. Tell me I'm not losing it. Delivered. Read. No reply. Hours passed. The house hummed its same fake normalcy. Refrigerator, fan wind through shutters. But every sound now carried an undertone of breathing. I left for coffee, needing noise. The cafe chatter felt unreal, like being underwater. When I came back, the shoes had rearranged themselves, now perfectly ordered by size, smallest to largest. That night, I stopped pretending to ignore it. I dragged the lamp into the hall, its cord stretching taut from my room. I sat with my back against the opposite wall, phone recording quietly in my lap. I waited. At midnight exactly, the first sound came. A shuffle from inside the locked room. Then, A single knock. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. My voice came out cracked. "Who's in there?" No answer. I waited. Then came another knock. Slower this time, followed by the faint whisper of fabric. Like someone leaning their ear to the door. "Who are you?" I whispered. Still nothing, only the smell. Faintly sweet, faintly wrong like burnt vanilla. Footsteps creaked on the stairs behind me. I spun, lamplight trembling across the wall. A figure stood halfway up the steps. The host. Smiling. A brass key twirling between two fingers.
"You shouldn't be up here,"
she said softly. Voice like a lullaby practiced too many times. Every instinct in me, screaming at me to run, but my body staying still. She stepped past me. The brass key slid into the lock with a neat metallic click. The door swung open without resistance. Inside, an empty room. No bed, no furniture, just beige walls, bare wood floors, and a faint smell of dust and lemon cleaner. And then the shoes. Dozens of pairs, rows upon rows along every wall. Leather boots, sandals, sneakers, heels, every kind of shoe imaginable. Each pair tagged with a small paper label tied by twine. I realized they were names. Hundreds of names written in neat block letters. I stepped closer. My throat felt tight. The black leather pair, the first ones I'd seen, had a tag that read Carl. The red heels, Lucy. The blue sneakers, Tommy. Names I didn't know. My phone buzzed. A new notification. "Thanks for your stay. Don't forget to leave a review." The host's voice came from behind me. Quiet and strangely tender.
The guests, they leave things behind. We keep them here.
I looked at the wall again, the endless rows, the polished names, the lives reduced to 2 pairs of shoes. When I turned back, the host was gone. The door clicked shut. And in the dim lamplight, another pair had joined the row. My sneakers. I don't remember walking back to my room. My hands shook too hard to lock the door. My sneakers, the ones now missing from my feet, were gone, and yet I couldn't feel the floor. My brain refused to catch up. Dozens of shoes, hundreds of names, the smell of lemon cleaner thick in the air, and the host's voice echoing in my skull.
"Guests leave things behind. We keep them here."
I told myself to breathe, to get out. My phone was still in my pocket, still buzzing faintly with that cursed notification. "Thanks for your stay. Don't forget to leave a review." I scrolled through the listing. The reviews were glowing, dozens of them. Each had the same structure, short, cheerful, identical punctuation.
Felt like home. Didn't want to leave.
Would stay again. Everything was perfect.
Different names, same voice. I packed in silence. Didn't fold anything. Just shoved clothes into my bag, grabbed my charger, ignored the binder smiling from the table. When I opened the bedroom door, the hallway stretched darker than it had before. The nightlight was off, and the locked room, now unlocked, stood open at the end of the hall. Inside, the shoes waited. Only this time, they weren't against the walls. They were arranged in a line, stretching from the back of the room to the threshold, like a trail. My sneakers were at the end, toes pointing outward, as if waiting for me to step into them again. I forced myself downstairs, heart beating too hard to be quiet. The front door felt miles away. Every step echoed louder than it should. My hand hit the handle, locked. Not with the deadbolt I'd turned earlier. The lock had changed. Brass now, heavy, keyhole, facing the wrong direction. My phone buzzed. A message from the host.
Please don't leave. Checkout isn't until sunrise.
My stomach dropped. I bolted to the back door. Same lock. Every window I tried felt fused to the frame. When I hit one hard enough to rattle the glass, the lights flickered. The air conditioning kicked on full blast. The smell of lemon cleaner deepened, cloying, almost choking. And then, footsteps overhead. Measured, calm, crossing from room to room. I grabbed a kitchen knife from the drawer, the closest thing to control I could find. The footsteps reached the stairs. I pressed my back to the wall, blade trembling in my hand. Each creak of wood was deliberate, like someone who'd memorized which boards made noise and stepped on them anyway. Halfway down, the host's voice floated through the dark.
You don't need to be afraid.
I'm not. I lied.
Good.
She said softly.
It's always worse when they fight.
A light blinked on above the stairs, that same soft, warm glow from the entryway lamp. For a moment, I could see her shadow, calm, human, unhurried. Please, I said, voice cracking. I'll leave a review, I swear.
Everyone says that.
She reached the bottom step. I didn't see her face. Just the key again, glinting like gold. And then, a sound behind me, the gentle shuffle of shoes, moving across the floor. I turned just in time to see them sliding into the kitchen, dozens of them, as if invisible feet filled each one. The floor creaked under their weight. The host tilted their head, voice low, almost kind.
You're not the first.
I bolted for the stairs, taking them two at a time, the sound of those shoes following like applause. By the time I reached the hall, the lights cut out. The only glow left came from the open door. And the empty room, waiting. I slammed the bedroom door shut and jammed the chair under the handle. My chest burned from running. The shoes hadn't followed, not yet, but I could still hear them downstairs, shuffling, dragging. As if the whole house had a heartbeat. The air conditioner cut out. Silence rolled back in. Then, faintly, a voice through the vent. The host.
Don't fight it. It's easier when you accept it.
I pressed my palms to my ears, whispered to myself, it's just a person. It's just a scam. They want to scare me. But the house didn't feel like it belonged to anyone anymore. My phone still had a signal, barely. I tried calling 911. Static answered. Then a voice, faint and calm.
What's your location?
Finally, relief. Please. I'm trapped in an Airbnb.
Sir,
The voice interrupted.
we've already sent someone to check on the property.
What?
The listing is inactive. Has been for months.
I froze. No, it's live. I booked it 3 days ago. The line went dead. I scrolled to the booking page, but it had vanished from my history. No record, no messages. Just an empty search bar blinking like it was waiting for me to admit I'd made it all up. I checked my bank app. The charge wasn't there. I hadn't paid for the stay, and yet I was here. The walls creaked, almost like laughter. I looked down. My sneakers, the ones the host had taken, were sitting by the door again. Clean, laces tied, waiting. A tag hung from one of them now, white paper. My name written neatly in block letters. Adam. Something brushed against the door from the other side. A gentle knock followed by that same dragging sound. I whispered, "What do you want?" A pause. Then, faintly, a voice. Mine. Checkout isn't until sunrise. The lamp flickered. I grabbed my bag, kicked the chair aside, and tried the window. It finally gave way, screeching as it slid open. Cold air rushed in. The drop below wasn't far, maybe 10 feet. I could jump. I hesitated, one leg over the sill, when something scraped behind me. Not shoes, wood. The locked room door across the hall was open again, wider than before. A faint glow spilled out. I could see movement inside. Dozens of silhouettes shifting like they were remembering how to stand. Then, from inside the room, I heard my own voice whisper again, closer this time. "Don't leave yet, you haven't checked out." I bolted. I hit the ground hard, knees buckling, gravel biting my palms. When I looked up, the house loomed above me, windows dark, except one. The guest room. Someone stood there, behind the glass, motionless, wearing my clothes. I ran. The street was empty, no cars, no sound. I didn't stop until the porch light was a pinprick behind me. When I finally checked my phone again, the messages from the host were gone, replaced by a new one from an unknown number.
We're glad you enjoyed your stay. Your review helps others find us.
Attached was a photo of me. Grainy, taken through the guest room window. I looked up. Across the street, another house stood dark and quiet. A for rent sign leaned in the yard. My phone buzzed again, a new notification. Recommended listing near you. Cozy suburban getaway. Easy check-in. Whole house. And beneath it, a photo of the same beige house I'd just escaped. Only this time, the window light was on. I walked until the horizon bled gray. Dawn came reluctant, like it didn't want to touch that house. My legs ached. Every porch light I passed looked the same. Beige siding, green shutters, same narrow porch. I didn't trust any of them. When I finally reached a gas station, the man behind the counter blinked at me like I'd stepped out of a dream. I asked for a phone. He slid his across the counter. The screen flickered when I typed 911. The call connected, and the operator's voice was gentle. Too gentle.
"What's your emergency?"
I was staying at a rental house on Maple Drive. I stammered. "Something's wrong there." A pause. Keys clicked softly.
"Sir, there's no Maple Drive in this county."
I pulled up my booking confirmation to prove it, but my inbox was empty. No thread, no messages. My photos, gone. Every image I'd taken of the shoes, the rooms, even the outside, deleted. Only one remained. A shot of my reflection in the guest room mirror. But behind me, in the photo, were dozens of people. Their faces blurred, their shoes perfectly aligned. I left the phone on the counter and stumbled outside before the clerk could ask questions. The sun climbed higher. Birds started their usual morning nonsense, and for a few minutes I almost believed I'd made it out. The world looked painfully normal. School buses, joggers, distant traffic. Then my phone buzzed again. Unknown number.
You forgot something.
Attached, a photo of the upstairs hall. My suitcase, still open on the bed. And beside it, a new pair of shoes, gray sneakers, mine. I threw the phone into a storm drain, walked faster. Every reflection, car windows, storefronts, puddles, caught me at the wrong angle, like the world was lagging a second behind. At the bus stop, a woman sat 2 seats down, scrolling her phone. The screen's reflection flashed briefly in her glasses. I caught a glimpse of what she was reading. An Airbnb review. 5 stars. Felt like home, would stay again. The photo at the top was the house. But it's now my listing, and my name, my full name, listed as the host. I didn't go home, not that night, not since. I drifted. Motels, couches, trains that never stopped long enough for me to explain. But sometimes, when I try to sleep, my phone lights up on its own. A notification, new guest request for your property. The message is always the same, one night only, easy money, cash, no questions. And every time, the address is different. Until last week. This time, it was my old apartment, the one I haven't paid rent on in months. I don't go there. I don't even drive near it. But last night, when I passed by on instinct, a porch light burned softly in the window. A lockbox hung by the door. And in the driveway, neatly aligned, side by side, sat 3 pairs of shoes. Black leather, red heels, blue sneakers, waiting.
Thank you for listening. We are a new account. And your support matters more than you know. A simple like, a comment, or subscribing to Tales Atelier goes a long way. Now back to the program.
Some houses are just houses. Others are practiced. They've had people stay before you. They'll have more after. So when you find a notebook with 9 names, and yours is already filled in, would you turn the page? Would you still leave? Or are you exactly where they need you to be? It wasn't even a close friend. Just someone I used to work with, Samantha. We'd overlapped for about a year at a branding agency before she left to freelance full-time. We kept each other on Instagram, occasionally liked stories. That kind of acquaintance. When she messaged, asking if I'd be interested in house-sitting while she and her husband traveled, I almost said no. But the timing was perfect. I'd just been let go from my contract gig and was staying with my brother. 10 days of peace and space sounded like a vacation. She offered $500 and full access to their home in exchange for some light duties. Feed the cat, water the plants, don't answer the landline. That part was bolded in the message. I actually laughed when I read it. I arrived on a Thursday morning. She and her husband were already packed, keys in hand. The place was nicer than I expected, suburban but stylish. Wood floors, mid-century furniture, lots of windows. Clean, a little too quiet. There was even a small sunroom where the cat, Minerva, liked to nap. Samantha showed me around quickly. Food in the fridge. Plants labeled with sticky notes. Litter box already scooped. Alarm code written on a notepad. Landline unplugged. Cord coiled like a sleeping snake beside it. "Please just leave that," she said, glancing at it. "We've had issues with spam calls. Super annoying." I nodded. "No problem." After they left, I settled in, unpacked, made coffee, introduced myself to the cat, who blinked once, unimpressed. The place had a stillness to it, not eerie, just curated, like it hadn't been lived in long, or maybe too long. That night, I watched a movie in the living room. The couch was a little too firm, but the throw blanket smelled like cedar. I went to bed in the guest room, which smelled faintly of old linen and lavender. On day 2, I explored more. There wasn't much to snoop through. Their bedroom door was locked, which I respected, but the hallway had a narrow built-in drawer under a mirror. Inside were some envelopes, take-out menus, an extra roll of tape, and a slim leather-bound notebook. A guest log. It was unexpected, not a vacation rental, just their personal home. I flipped it open. Most of the entries were neat and polite. "Had a great time here. Thanks again for letting me crash during the conference. Loved Minerva. She's so chatty. All the best, Joe. Kept the plants alive. Hope Greece was amazing." There were dates going back at least 2 years. I counted 9 names before mine. They really had been letting people stay here. But around halfway through the book, one entry stood out. The handwriting was different, messy, hurried, as if written in low light. Heard voices last night. Probably nothing. But just in case. Don't answer if someone knocks after midnight. I froze for a second. Okay, probably a joke. Or someone trying to be clever. I turned the page, half smiling, waiting for the punchline. The next person had written a long, cheerful note, never referencing the creepy line. So either they didn't read the last one, or ignored it. Still, it stuck in my head the rest of the day. I even checked the front door lock again before bed. Minerva had perched herself near the hallway, eyes fixed on the dark. Midnight came and went. No knocking. But there's a voice in my gut telling me, the house is just about to start, it's welcome. Minerva started acting strange the next day. She stopped sleeping in the sunroom. That was her spot the first 2 days, but now she kept pacing along the hallway instead, sitting near the front door, tail flicking, ears alert, like she was waiting for someone, or listening. I followed her once, curious, and crouched beside her. She stared at the door like she expected it to open. I pressed my ear to it. Nothing. I went outside and checked the porch, just in case. Clear. No packages, no notes, no footprints in the dust. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about that line in the logbook. I flipped back through it after lunch, almost hoping I'd imagined the weird entry. It was still there. Heard voices last night. Probably nothing, but just in case. Don't answer if someone knocks after midnight. The ink looked slightly smudged. Ballpoint. Same brand as the pen in the drawer. I flipped further, scanning more pages. Most entries were standard. Thanks for the space. Cat is adorable. Everything worked great. Some signed with smiley faces or hearts. Then one was crossed out. A full paragraph, thick black lines scribbled over every word. I held the page up to the window light, trying to read under the ink. I caught just a few words. Mirror, repeat, return key. That was all. I didn't like that. That night, around 1:30 a.m., I woke up suddenly. No sound, no dream, just that quiet alertness. The kind where your body knows something before your brain catches up. Minerva wasn't in the room. I sat up and listened. For a while, nothing. Then, a soft, rhythmic creaking. Faint, like someone shifting weight on an old floorboard. Or pacing. I stayed still, barely breathing. It stopped. Then a whisper. Not words, just a texture of voice, muffled, like it was behind a door. I got out of bed slowly, heart thumping, and checked the hallway. Empty. Minerva was there, sitting like a statue, eyes locked on the front door. I didn't sleep much after that. In the morning, I tried to rationalize everything. Maybe neighbors. Maybe a sound from the street. I hadn't opened the windows, but still. Old houses echo. Right? I almost called Samantha. Almost. Instead, I distracted myself by cleaning, dishes, bathroom sink, even reorganized the hallway drawer. That's when I saw it. The guest log had a new entry. Written in smaller, tighter handwriting. Like someone trying not to wake anyone. And it wasn't signed. I saw you in the mirror. I stared at it, willing it to disappear. I hadn't written that. I hadn't even touched the log since yesterday. I flipped to the next page. It was blank. I checked the pen, still in the drawer. I looked at my reflection in the hallway mirror. Nothing behind me. But I still turned around, just in case, and I felt this odd sense of being watched. Of playing a part in a play I didn't signed up for. By day 7, I'd had enough. I'd barely slept anymore. Minerva wouldn't eat unless I stood in the kitchen with her. I kept waking up to lights I'd turned off, cabinets half open. Once, I found the hallway mirror angled slightly away from the wall. I hadn't touched it. Nothing overt, nothing I could prove, but something was wrong. Not haunted, just wrong. I told myself I'd stay the full 10 days, but I started packing early. On the 8th night, I heard the front door rattle. Not violently, just a soft jostle, like someone checking if it was locked. I sat up in bed, heart pounding, straining to listen. Minerva bolted under the dresser and wouldn't come out. I didn't go near the door, didn't check the peephole, didn't write anything in the log. But I sat up the rest of the night, waiting for something more. Nothing came. The next morning, I messaged Samantha, said I might have to leave a little early. No reply. I called the number she gave me, immediate, fast, busy tone. I checked our old work emails. The number she used before was different. I tried it. It rang once, then disconnected. I searched her name online. Nothing recent. Just a wedding registry from 2 years ago, and a photo of her smiling in front of the same sunroom I was sitting in now. That night, Minerva vanished. I checked every closet, every cabinet, even under the deck. Nothing. The plants were all wilting at once, leaves yellowing, soil bone dry, even though I'd watered them 2 days ago. I felt like the house was emptying itself out, or that I was no longer supposed to be there. Like my time was up. On the morning of day 10, I packed in silence. I left the keys on the hook, folded the spare blanket, washed the mug I'd been using. The guest log sat on the hallway table like it was watching me. I hesitated, then I opened it and wrote, "Left on day 10, thank you for this stay. Feed Minerva if she comes back." I tried not to overthink it. I just needed to leave. As I zipped up my bag, I felt it again, that little nudge. Like I was forgetting something, or missing a step. I opened the log one more time, flipped past my note. There was one more page, already filled out.
Left the key. Minerva's gone. Didn't answer the door. Didn't look in the mirror. Thanks for keeping the rules.
At the bottom, my name, in my handwriting. I stared at it, trying to make sense of it. It was dated tomorrow. I flipped back to the front, compared handwriting. It was mine, no question. I grabbed my things, shoved them in the bag without folding, and left. I didn't turn off the lights, didn't close the log, just walked out, locked the door, and kept walking. Halfway down the block, I remembered I'd left my hoodie on the back of a chair. I turned around, jogged back. The front door was open, and someone was standing just inside. A man in a blue jacket, holding a small duffel. He looked up and smiled like he'd been expecting me.
"Oh hey,"
he said.
"You must be the guy before me. They said you'd already left."
And for the first time, I wondered if the house, or someone inside it, wasn't just waiting for visitors, but collecting them, one at a time. The listing looked like every other mid-range rental I'd stayed in for work trips. Decent location, clean photos, predictable reviews. The host, Maya, had a profile photo of a plant and a string of 5-star ratings. Her bio said she loved making spaces feel like home. She was quick with messages. I booked the place late on a Sunday, and she replied within minutes.
"So glad to host you. The code is 1923. Checkout is noon. Enjoy your stay."
Short, efficient. I appreciated that. The house itself was a 1-story bungalow tucked between 2 taller apartment buildings. From the outside, it looked smaller than the photos. but the porch light was on and the keypad beeped green on the first try. Inside, it smelled faintly of lemon cleaner, like someone had wiped everything down an hour ago. The layout was simple: living room in front, kitchen in back, bedroom down a short hall. A binder labeled House Rules sat on the coffee table. The binder's first page had the Wi-Fi password in big block letters and a list of restaurants with hearts drawn around a taco place. The bedroom was spare, but neat. White sheets pulled tight, pillows stacked, a folded blanket at the foot of the bed. In the bathroom, the towels were folded so perfectly I felt bad for using one. I unpacked lightly, work laptop on the desk, toothbrush in a cup, a change of clothes hung just so the closet didn't look barren. I'm not sentimental about rentals, but this one had a kind of stillness that made me keep glancing over my shoulder. The air felt too still, as if the house was holding its breath. I checked the doors and windows, like I always do. Deadbolt latched, chain in place, back door secure. The windows had new locks and screens, barely touched. Everything was fine. Normal. Maya messaged again at 8, just as I was setting up my laptop.
Everything good? Just checking in.
All good, I typed back. Thanks for the water bottles. She replied instantly.
Great. Sleep well tonight.
I almost joked that I had a deadline to hit before sleep, but decided against it. Hosts didn't need my schedule. By 11, I'd eaten takeout tacos and finished half a report. The house was quiet, too quiet. I kept pausing, expecting to hear a neighbor upstairs or footsteps in the unit next door. But the walls gave me nothing, just the faint hum of the fridge and the occasional creak of wood settling. When I finally turned out the light, I lay in the dark longer than usual, listening to the silence. It wasn't threatening, exactly, but it was heavy. At 12:02 a.m., my phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from Maya.
Everything still okay?
I stared at the screen for a beat, thumb hovering. Then I typed back, "Yeah, thanks again, all good." The reply came instantly.
Perfect. Sleep tight.
I set the phone down, rolled over, and told myself the weirdness was just me being overtired. But something in the house felt like it was waiting for me to close my eyes. I woke up the way you do in a hotel, when your body knows you're not home. Half dreaming, pulse high, listening for a sound that doesn't belong. This time, there was one. A sharp metallic click from the front of the house. The deadbolt sliding back. I froze. Every nerve firing. It was 2:03 a.m. My phone screen glowed on the nightstand, casting pale light across the sheets. I strained to listen. The creak of hinges, then footsteps. Slow, unhurried. The soft thump of rubber soles on hardwood. I sat up. Hard jackhammering. The chain? I'd latched it. I remembered. I was sure of it. But now there was movement in the living room, then the kitchen. Not the restless shifting of a pet or neighbor through the walls. Deliberate. One step, pause, another step. I grabbed my phone, thumb hovering over 911. Instead, I swiped 2 messages and typed fast. Someone's inside. Did you give anyone else the code? Sent to Maya, the host. The reply came so fast it startled me.
Don't worry, just checking something. Go back to sleep.
I stared at the words, my throat closing. Just checking something. What? At 2 in the morning? The footsteps moved again. Closer now, along the short hall. The boards creaked, then went quiet, right outside the bedroom. I slid off the bed, crouched low, eyes locked on the door. My suitcase sat by the wall like a flimsy barricade. I could hear breathing, slow and steady, just beyond the wood. Another buzz on my phone.
Everything's fine. Promise.
My stomach twisted. I didn't type back. The knob rattled gently, like someone testing it, then stilled. I waited, every muscle screaming. The footsteps receded, back through the hall, into the living room. A pause, then the faint scrape of metal, the deadbolt sliding shut again. The silence afterward was worse than the sounds had been. I sat awake until dawn, lights on, suitcase at my feet, phone in my hand. My last message from Maya sat unanswered on the screen. At 7:02 a.m., a new one arrived.
Hope you slept well. Let me know if you need anything today. Smiley face.
I didn't reply. But when I opened the bedroom door, something stopped me cold. A line of muddy footprints stretched down the hallway. They led from the front door straight to mine, then stopped. Inches from where I'd been lying awake all night. I stood in the doorway for a long time, staring at the trail. The footprints weren't faint. They were dark with wet mud, each tread clearly defined. They started at the front door, marched down the hall, and ended directly outside my bedroom. No turn, no wandering, just a straight line that stopped at me. I crouched to touch one. Damp. Fresh. I grabbed my phone and called the host. No messages this time, no emojis. I wanted to hear her voice. She picked up on the first ring.
Morning. Everything okay?
There were footprints in the house, I said. My voice shook. Mud. All the way to my room. A beat of silence, then bright and casual.
Oh, sorry about that. I had to pop in last night. Just to check something.
You came in, inside.
Yes, but don't worry. I didn't want to wake you.
Her tone was practiced. Reassuring, like a customer service script.
I just need to look at the pipes under the sink. Quick fix. In and out. All fine now.
You came in at 2 in the morning, without telling me. She laughed lightly, like I'd made a joke.
Don't worry. You're safe, and that's the main thing. The house is yours again, of course.
I swallowed hard. You can't do that.
The house is mine.
She corrected gently. Something in me snapped. I'm checking out.
Oh, that's no problem. Checkout's noon, as always.
She said, still cheerful.
Just lock up behind you.
Her voice softened, like she was tucking me into bed.
And leave me a nice review, won't you?
The call ended. I spent the next hour moving like a thief in someone else's home, cramming clothes into my suitcase, shoving chargers and toiletries into the bag without folding or sorting. I stripped the bed, not because I cared about rules, but because I wanted no trace of me left here. When I rolled my suitcase to the front door, I stopped. The footprints were gone. The floor shone, lemon clean. I hadn't heard anyone mop. I bent low, hunting for even a smear of mud. Nothing. As if the trail had been wiped clean the moment I decided to leave. My phone buzzed as I stepped onto the porch. A new message from Maya.
Thanks for your stay. Hope you come back soon. Don't forget to leave a review. Smiley face.
I stood there, suitcase handle biting into my palm, the keypad's little green light blinking like an eye. She had a key. She had the code. and she had a script she knew by heart. I dragged my bag down the steps, across the street, and didn't look back until the house was just another shape behind me. But even hours later, boarding my train, I could still hear her voice in my head. Warm, polite, practiced.
Enjoy your stay.
Every guest leaves a review, but the house remembers the rest. The breaths, the footsteps, the names whispered in the dark. You think you're just passing through, but the place always keeps something. Sometimes it's you. Good night.